Next up, Shop Talk is pleased to welcome the CEO of Kohl's, Tom Kingsbury. Tom will also be interviewed by Melissa Repko, retail and consumer reporter at CNBC.
Well, I'm back for more retail talk, and thank you, Tom Kingsbury, for joining me to talk a little bit more about what you're doing with Kohl's.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
You have announced Kohl's new strategy for growth to get you back to sales growth, and first wanted to start out by talking about what you see as the key pillars of that strategy.
Okay. Well, we have 4 priorities that are very important to us now and for the future. Number 1 is enhancing the customer experience. That's really important to us. Second, accelerate and simplify our value strategy. Manage inventory and expenses with discipline and strengthen the balance sheet. The one I'd like to zero in on today is the enhancing the customer experience. We've worked really hard on our stores. We've changed them a lot. We made them more modern. We also have new brands that we brought in to obviously highlight the customer experience, one of which is Sephora. Sephora has been an outstanding category for us. Kohl's, candidly, was never really in the beauty business. Mm-hmm. So Sephora gave us the opportunity to enter the beauty business. Obviously, beauty is a key category. It not only helps the beauty business, but also the women's business, the accessory business. So it was a real coup. We just started in 2021, and it's by 2025, it's going to be a $2 billion business. So we're at the end of 23, we had 910 stores. We plan to open another 140, and the balance of the chain will be, we'll have Sephora in 2025.
Some of our audience members have probably seen these Sephora shops roll out at your stores, but you've also announced other plans, expanding home goods, for example, also bringing Babies R Us back with the shop in your store. But a lot of these categories, baby included, home, and also beauty, are very competitive. What is Kohl's going to bring that's different?
First of all, the businesses we're going to go after are home related, okay? And what we're bringing to the party in terms of affordable home decor, you know, we have a wider range of ceramics, glassware, storage, etc. So the key to us is making sure that we understand that value is incredibly important, and that will distinguish us from everyone else. The other thing, too, is our gifting program, which is really important. One of the first things I did when I came back to work at Kohl's was to establish a gifting presentation in the front of the store. So when the customer comes in, they'll see a lot of newness, okay? Like we had a Valentine's Day presentation. I know that sounds pretty basic, but we didn't have it before. We're just doing Easter now, which is doing very well. But really the most important thing was during the holiday period, we had an unbelievable presentation of gifting, and it was phenomenal. I mean, we had like a 90% sell-through on the product overall. So what's different? It's more in terms of how we're rotating out the giftables. You know, I spent a lot of time in off-price. And one of the things I learned is the treasure hunt mentality. Making sure that you're always bringing in newness, freshness, and when the customer comes in, they'll see something new every time they come in the door. Impulse, another thing very important, which
what do you mean by impulse when you're describing that category?
Okay.
Are we talking candy? Are we talking about
we're talking
seasonal
a
items?
lot
Okay.
of different things.
Give us a
but
few
what
ideas.
it basically is when the customer's waiting to check out, there's an impulse line. I'm sure you all have done that before. When you go to Walgreens or whatever, they have that line where you buy extra product, put in your basket. The attachment rate is obviously extremely good there. But that's basically what it is. It's creating an environment where when you're waiting in line, you can pick up things that you want. Kohl's was sort of slow to get into that business. We have about 80 stores right now, but we're going to roll out another 350 stores this year, and over the next couple of years, they'll be in all of our stores. But it's a big business. It's a big business, and it's an important business because it just adds to the basket overall.
One of the comments I've heard some shoppers make, particularly younger shoppers, is that Kohl's just doesn't seem as fashion forward. What are you doing specifically to address that?
Fashion forward?
Yes. So when it comes to apparel or even home goods, a lot of that is driven by what's trendy, what color people want to have of that throw pillow.
Yeah. Well, fashion obviously is very important, and we're working hard to increase our trend merchandise. One thing about Sephora, which is really great, it's bringing in a different customer. The customer's younger, more diverse, more trend-oriented. So we've worked really hard on our junior sportswear business or young women's business, and we're capitalizing on the marketplace to look for product. Now we're working closely with the manufacturing community to reduce the lead time for goods coming in, and they're very trend-oriented, but we have a much smaller window, which obviously we can capitalize on trends. And again, the Sephora customer wants trend product overall. So we're working on that. We're working on other categories. We were very active-oriented.
Like active wear, you mean?
Active wear.
Okay.
And now we've expanded our assortments to include more dress-up product. We're going to have our first really dress department where we have dresses made by dressmakers versus sportswear. We've tested it. It's been really, really strong, and that's also obviously it's a trend-oriented business as well. But we're just trying to work as close as we can with the manufacturing community so that we can have the right fashion product overall. And I think if you look at our new assortment at home, it's very fashionable. It's really catered to a younger consumer. It's friendly price points, and but it reflects all the trends that are happening today. We spent so many years at Kohl's just chasing small electrics like coffee makers and mixers and stuff like that. That's still important business, but we're working. You can see we're working on really trend-right products overall, and it's really catered to a younger consumer. That's the one thing we're working on in general. And there's a photograph here of Babies R Us, and definitely a younger customer. And it's not new to me. When I was running another company, we had a big baby business. And what's good about it, obviously, is we'll sell a lot more product when it comes to strollers and cribs, etc. But there's a big halo effect, and it grows the children's business in general. So I understand the business. I know it. We're going to roll out 200 stores in fall of 24. We really feel it's a beginning to really grow the overall children's business.
You mentioned the big push you've been making with Sephora. How do you make sure that that shopper who comes in for a lipstick doesn't just immediately leave and actually does browse other parts of the store?
Yeah. Well, 40% of the Sephora purchases have another item in the basket. And it's basically the young women's product. It's the accessory business, such as fashion jewelry, etc. And also then, thirdly, children's is also in the basket. So that's a pretty good number, 40%. Obviously, we always want it to grow, but by changing our assortments in the areas I just discussed, is really going to improve that attachment rate.
What else are you doing throughout the store? I feel like with the Sephora coming in, those shops are kind of bright and shiny, but they may not feel like they match the adjacent department. The other parts of your store may not have the same sparkle. How are you trying to change that?
Well, the thing we did when we brought in Sephora, we went through and we updated the balance of the store in terms of fixturing. You know, we got rid of a lot of the graphics that we had in the stores that were very old and very dated. We painted the departments, etc. So with 900 stores, I mean, that really made the rest of the stores look better. The conversion of gifting in the front of the store makes a big difference as well. Where we had 2 register banks, one on the right, one on the left, we got rid of one of them and just made it that destination for gifting. So that in itself is very exciting.
Can you give me an idea of some of the gifting items that you're carrying now that you didn't have before?
A lot of different gifting items. Overall, fragrance sets are very, very important. We sell a lot of those. Toys are in the equation as well as far as gifting goes, like Legos and stuff like that. Bath and body, etc. So there is, it's really a big assortment of product overall.
One of your biggest competitors is Target, and they've made a big push into private label, essentially competing by having things that competitors don't have. What are you doing in the private label space to offer products that no one else can carry?
Well, we have a large private label program. It's 30% of our business. So a lot of our key programs, like our Sonoma brand, Nine West brand, Simply Vera Wang, those are really obviously great brands and great values overall. So that's a differentiation. I would put up our offering in terms of private label versus anybody's. But what we are doing is, even though we think the private label is important, as I mentioned before, we really want to grow our market brands, because we really feel that we have this advantage over other retailers where we can, we're a department store. We have 1,200 stores. And, but the good news about Kohl's versus other department stores, you've probably read the news about other department stores shutting down a bunch of their stores. But the beauty of Kohl's is the fact that our stores are located in strip centers. Really a big deal. So we can bring the department store concept to the strip centers where, a lot of the successful companies are located overall. But so we can build great presentations of great brands. I encourage you all to go in our stores and see the kind of brands we're carrying overall, and that's only going to grow. We really feel it's important. Differentiator for us is to have more and more market brands.
By market brands, you mean national brands that are well recognized.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you were talking about the advantage you think you have in strip malls, but frankly, one of the competitors you mentioned, Macy's, that's closing stores, they're closing mall stores, but they're coming to your neighborhood, sometimes right next to you in the same strip center, and competing for those national brands. What's your pitch to a brand as to why they should pick Kohl's over Macy's, Target, Walmart, or others?
Well, we're more established in terms of having stores in strip centers versus Macy's. They're just starting it. We have 1,200 stores, and as I mentioned, they're talking about opening up 20, 30 stores, okay, in the concept overall. People, we talk to the manufacturers all the time that they want to do business with Kohl's because of how many stores we have, but also our real estate strategy. Macy's just acknowledged that they need to be in there, but we've been doing it for a long time. So we feel we're obviously ahead of them on that. And, again, we treat the brands very special. We really think it's really important that, we have great relationships with them.
One of the challenges, though, is some of these brands, Nike, Levi's, which is now led by your predecessor, are actually moving away from wholesale and saying, we want to sell more through our own stores, through our own website. We don't want to rely so much on wholesalers, whether that's Kohl's, Macy's, or others. How are you dealing with that? Because some of them, frankly, just don't want to be in a wholesaler or a department store, or if they are, they're just not giving you the best stuff.
Well, they're always going to move to direct to consumer. We can't really stop that. All we can do is continue to work with them, give them a great presentation in our stores. Brick and mortar is not going away, okay? Direct to consumer may be growing, but brick and mortar is here to stay. And you see a lot of the companies that are doing very well, like in the off-price sector, they're pretty much all brick and mortar. So the customers, they love to shop. They like to go in and have that experience in terms of shopping. So it's going to grow. Their penetration is going to grow, but we have plenty of ammunition to offset that. And they need to be in a brick and mortar setting.
It sounds like one of the ways that you hope to attract some of those national brands is to offer more of a white glove experience, to kind of offer them a certain level of customer experience when they walk into Kohl's and discover that brand. What does that look like? How can you say, we're going to present your brand in such a way that makes you pick us over our competitor?
Well, a lot of it is done through fixturing and visuals within the stores. So that's photography. Is there something wrong here?
No, it's looking okay on the screen.
There's all these red and flashing lights and stuff.
We're good.
Anyway, so we can give them the experience they want, and we always, we want to have a great relationship with them. So we do that through really strong presentation, graphics, etc. Just making sure that the customer really understands how much we believe in those brands in our stores.
Okay. Can you think of any interesting examples of how national brands have showed up differently in a Kohl's than other stores, and maybe where you can take that to, again, stand apart in the way that you kind of showcase brands and make them want to be on your website and in your store?
Well, I think if you look at it, if you go in our stores, you'll see. I mean, we put the best products in the best locations. And so when a manufacturer comes in and they shop Kohl's and they see that, there's a great presentation of their product, and other manufacturers come in and look at the presentation we did for somebody else, they'll reach out to us and they'll want the similar presentation overall. And it just makes it special, and we treat them special because, we've worked really hard to get those brands to come into our stores.
As you change the stores, one of the things you need to do is reintroduce shoppers to your new look and maybe try to find shoppers who have not come into a Kohl's before. How are you trying to reach them?
Well, just in a good example of what started today is we have a major campaign for our home business. highlighting, all the newness we have in home today. So yeah, it's already started, and we're focusing on all of our marketing on talking about what's happening, the newness that's happening. We have a major presentation in gifting as well. So it's really more in terms of talking to the customer through our marketing efforts.
You mentioned some of those new shoppers are coming in through Sephora. When they add another item to the basket, what are those items, and what are you doing to kind of lean in?
As I was saying
more?
before, the items that they're adding to the basket are our junior sportswear business, our young women's business, the kids business, and the accessory business overall. But they're also picking up home decor because of the aesthetic of it, and it's a good price point. It's somewhat inexpensive, and so that's working so far. 40% is pretty good. The other thing I like to share with everyone is 40% of the customers that shop Sephora at Kohl's are new to Kohl's. That's a phenomenal number when you think about it. 40%.
So maybe they have gone to Sephora before, but didn't. Once they realize it's in Kohl's, they're coming into Kohl's and trying out Kohl's too. Is that what you're finding? Absolutely,
and there's not a whole lot of cannibalization between the Sephora freestanding stores and Kohl's. Mm-hmm. So Sephora is gaining a lot of market share based on what we're doing and what they're doing in their freestanding stores.
Where do you see opportunity to maybe push the price higher? Are there certain categories, maybe within beauty or other departments, where you could see bringing up the average price point?
Yeah, Sephora is a higher price point in general, so it demonstrates we can sell that. Honestly, we're looking not to increase our prices. We'll probably bring in enhanced product that we can maybe charge a little more. We're all about value. When we look at the customer, we understand that, they're squeezed. The middle income customer is squeezed, and we're just, we're working hard to deliver as much as we can on the value equation overall. There'll be some things that go up in price, but our mission, our goal is how do we make it more and more affordable for the customers that are shopping in our stores.
Are you seeing any change in spending and discretionary spending as prices do come down in some areas? Any evidence that people are ticking back up in discretionary spending?
A tick up in discretionary spending? A little bit. I think that, just the evidence that our gifting business is good, I think that shows that. But there's a lot of pressure on the customer. And, maybe there's a slight lift, but in general, I think people are still looking to get as much for the buck as possible.
Speaking of getting a lot for the buck, you come from the off-price world. You referred to that a bit earlier from Burlington. What have been the biggest lessons you learned from off-price, which has continued to be a red-hot retail category?
Yeah, well, I think what I mentioned earlier, I think having fresh product on the floor all the time, we really have taken from the playbook of off-price how to effectively manage your open to buy. The other thing too is taking timely markdowns, another basic thing, but that's what they do in off-price. And we're, we've started to do that as well. So currency of inventory, freshness, having open to buy, those are the things that off-price excels in.
Well, we're just about out of time, but one last question. In 2 years from now, or maybe 5 years from now if you choose, what will be the different experience that our audience members will see at Kohl's stores and on its website? What are the biggest changes?
I think the fact that you'll find more interesting product on the website and our stores overall. Product has always been king, and it always will be. And I think that every single day you'll see a much more an assortment that is much more interesting and more topical and be more trend oriented.
Well, thanks so much, Tom, for your time, and thanks again for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of Shop Talk.
Thank you.